Hello, and thanks for watching our latest Culture Pioneers conversation, where we'll be exploring brand-aligned behaviours and how to embed these into company culture. My name is Becky Norman. I'm the Managing Editor of HR Zone, and this conversation is part of our Culture Pioneers campaign, which is powered by HR Zone. And through this campaign, we are on a mission to both support organisations driving culture change and commending those who are leading forward and challenging the status quo at work. And we're doing this through our awards programme. And I am absolutely delighted to be joined by one of our 2024 winners of the Culture Pioneers Awards, James Ferguson, who's Director of Culture at Wurzak Hotel Group. Last year, Wurzak won the brand category of the awards for their achievements in incorporating their brand values into the everyday lives of their people. And to quote one of the judges, Deborah Corey, on why Wurzak won the award, she said, "Wurzak Hotel Group took everything they did to the next level, not merely doing a tick box exercise to bring their culture to life, but doing so in an in-depth and innovative way. Their brilliant results showed the true extent and impact of their great work." James, congratulations once again for your win, and thank you for speaking with me today.
Thank you, Becky. Excited to be here.
So let's dive right in. So Wurzak, you've been on quite the journey with your culture and your brand reputation, so much so that you've, as you've claimed, gone from worst to first on Glassdoor. Good to get that order right, and achieving employer of choice status, and of course being a winner of our awards last year. Could we start at the very beginning, though, and talk about the difficulties you faced with your culture prior to those transformational efforts?
Yeah, for sure. I think for us specifically, we were really at a position where we were kind of at the bottom, right? We went from worst to first. We were at a 2-2 on Glassdoor, and we had nobody in place that was kind of owning our branding, our culture, or our reputation in any capacity. So when you don't have someone focused in that area, it obviously will slip. And so we didn't really have enough control on it. And so one of the things that we did first and foremost as a company is build out our HR department. So prior to my role being put into place, we just kind of had a VP and an HR admin. And one of the decisions we made in 22, leading into 23, was let's build this out and have that focal point in each area, both on the front of house or the culture side, and then the back of house, the admin side. And so that decision was a huge pivotal point for us, because we went from, taking it as it hits us to intentionally making moves to improve it. And so I was put in the role as director of culture in 2023. I think it was February or March. And one of the first things that we had to do was assess where we stood, which again was really at a low point. We didn't have the resources or wherewithal to do much with what we had, but now we did. So it was like, okay, well, where do we put our energy first? And it, truthfully, it felt almost like insurmountable. It's like we have a lot to do. And there's just not enough time to do it. But the key with any kind of transformational process is to understand that it's just about taking that first step and continually getting 1% better each day, and falling in love with that process and kind of rewarding yourself along the way. And it really started with just creating awareness, both in our brand as well as in our company, about who we are and what matters to us. So that was kind of the first focus, and we started that with our brand pillars.
Great. And could you touch on a couple of your brand pillars? Because they're really interesting. They're certainly not those generic brand values that you see, across other organizations. So could you just give us a little flavor of those?
Yeah, so we have 8 in total. My favorite one, which is we have fun. As you saw at the Culture Pioneer Awards, I threw some confetti in celebration of our award. And that's one that I focus on, I embody, and try to move forward each day in my role. But other ones, like we solve problems, we find opportunities, we are trailblazers, we make the ordinary extraordinary. All of them are very actionable. And so as we kind of took that first step, we wanted to make sure that they were defined in a way that felt tangible, attainable, and actionable. And so again, that first step was really defining them and then creating the awareness, which is how we started to create, posters and things like that, which is kind of the first phase of that process.
And then how do you ensure that those behaviours, so you've made people aware of them, you've given them clear definitions, how are you ensuring that they're continuously lived and breathed by your employees from then on?
That's a great point. So there's a lot of phases to this. First we started with orientation because we wanted people to understand what they were from the first day forward. So sure, we had all these longstanding employees that were kind of being introduced, but we also want to make sure that everyone that joined the company from that point forward understand who we are, how we behave, and how they can be part of it. So orientation was a big piece to that. The other side was our handbook. We had to make sure that our handbook spoke to those same things as the orientation did, so that it was one voice and one mission as we moved forward. And so those were kind of the two big projects that we focused on. And that really set the tone. And one of the things that we do within our orientation is we ask our team members, after we review our pillars, which one do they feel like speaks to them? Which one do they feel like they could embody in their new role? And so we ask them to identify that, and we give wristbands for it through the process. And what this does is it creates ownership from the first day, like, I'm going to own this. And the beauty of our brand pillars is that they're intertwined, meaning like if I'm solving problems, then I'm probably finding opportunities. And if I'm finding opportunities, I will then become a trailblazer. And if I'm a trailblazer, I'm going to have some fun. So if we each own one of those, rising tide rises all ships. And so that was our goal through that orientation process, was to make sure that we set the tone for what that was, and then got them involved from the first day. The next phase to that, I would say, that really jump-started us, especially with the leaders, because you see this, the biggest challenge is through middle management, right? Getting them bought in, getting them engaged and involved. So the way that we did that was through a program called Pillars with Purpose. And this was a daily micro learning through huddle. So we have huddles every day at our hotels. And it was about a 5-minute exercise where we would spend the day focusing on a pillar and an action, and how we can better align our actions to the pillars. So this was a long process. We did one pillar a week. So it was 8-week program. But each day we had a conversation about how we can better live out that pillar. And that really set the tone through education. So we went from awareness to education, and that helped our managers to understand what it looked like, how we can do it, and then better articulate that to their team to start taking action because of it.
Great, thank you. And you also have correct me if I'm wrong, the on-the-spot recognition program as well, which managers can give out. So if they see behaviours among their employees that are aligned with the brand pillars, then they can reward them for that. Is that right?
Yep. So that's a program that was kind of that third phase to it. So we went awareness, education, and then activation. So our Wurzak Wow program, as you mentioned, is an on-the-spot recognition program. And the goal of it is to, in the moment, recognize what caught your eye and why, a brand pillar and an action associated with it, and celebrate that individual. And that habit not only engages the leader, but it engages the team. And what gets recognized gets repeated. So this process began to not only improve our culture and engage our team and drive our performance, but it also just, again, built those habits that are fundamental to sustainable success with any culture transformation. So that was a huge piece to it. So every Friday at every one of our hotels, or Friday, as I call it, we would select a winner of the week and celebrate them, sharing what they did to be recognized, and make a big deal out of it, make some noise. So that process, every day we're celebrating, and every Friday we're picking a winner. That is a fundamental piece to who we are now as a company, and really, again, drives our performance, and more importantly, creates our pillars as an actionable item that makes sure we stay aligned for the long term.
And an opportunity for you to get your confetti out at that point.
Yeah, any chance I can get that out, I'm ready.
Great stuff. And how do you quickly stamp out or identify and stamp out problematic behaviours? Because it's great to enforce those positive behaviours, But, as new people come on board, or, there's always, in every organization, there's going to be difficult people. How do you address that?
Well, I think it's through continued coaching. One of the things part of our orientation process is to have our managers go through what we call essentials and elevate training. And what this allows them to do is to take, again, kind of that base level information we provide in orientation and help them understand how to kind of coach people through things. And it gives them that leadership development that helps, again, set the tone for their tenure with us and helps them coach people into where we want to go. And then these programs like the WOW program and our quarterly culture champion program helps kind of set the standard and keep our eyes on the prize as well. So if anyone's kind of deviating from that, it's quick to understand who that is, why that is, and address it. And like anything, if it's not an alignment, because we have these strong pillars and we have this strong belief in what we're doing, sometimes people don't align with that, and that's okay. I don't think we want everyone to work for us. We want people that have, similar mindsets, similar beliefs, and want to be part of something bigger. So sometimes that has people fall off, and that's okay. And then others, we kind of coach in the right direction. And then again, these programs just help keep us aligned over time.
Great, thank you. And you touched on a couple of positive impacts earlier from your efforts, but could you share with us a little bit more detail of that and the positive impact for both the business and your people?
Well, one of the things that was great about applying for Culture Pioneer is that you took a moment to really assess the progress. And for us, as you're well aware, we applied in 2023 and did not win. We were finalists. But at that time, we were too early in the stage, right? We had just started to do these programs, but the results weren't there. So obviously we can't win without results. Now in 24, it became a completely different thing. And so when you kind of sit down and you put these things together and you start really measuring your results, I mean, in 24, it was undeniable. So when I submitted that application, I put a Post-it at my desk that said, "We will win Culture Pioneer 24." That's how confident I was. And that wasn't because of something that I was doing specifically. It was something that we had done with all the things that we were doing as a team, as a company, that gave me that confidence. So to give you a couple of things, again, Glassdoor being a big one from a public eye. This is unfiltered employee feedback. We went from 2.2 to more recently, we're at a 4.32, which is the highest we've been on Glassdoor. Now, of course, you
Wow.
can argue that that's something that is only for people that want to give it and whatever. But at the end of the day, we were at a 2.2. So we knew where we stood, and now we know where we stand. And people often ask me, like, okay, well, you're at that now. What's next? For me, it's just maintaining, right? Like, I'm not trying to get a 4.5. I don't think that's a realistic thing. And I think the beauty of seeing this growth too is that it's not like it was a straight line, like we just got a whole bunch of good reviews and we crushed it. Like it was like this, right? And so we didn't do great the whole time. We learned through the process and continually improved. And I think that is more rewarding than anything else. But obviously, winning Culture Pioneer was a huge deal, and we'll get into that probably in a moment. But other things like turnover. So our turnover year over year was down 23%. That's massive. That's a huge impact on things. Application growth, this was one that was huge. In 22, we had, let me see, roughly 17,000 applicants to our company in 22. In 24, we had 49,000. So that's
Wow, so over double.
31,000 more applicants. Yeah. So that goes to show you from a branding standpoint, reputation standpoint, that improvement significantly changed the talent pool that we were getting. Now, were those all top talent? No, but we had a much larger pool to pick from, which allowed us to really make sure that we were aligned through the process and get the right people. Social growth was up 175% from 2022 to 24. We became Traveler's Choice through TripAdvisor for 4 of our hotels, and we're market leaders, being number 1 in TripAdvisor at 2 of our hotels out of 11. So that's a great example. The other thing that I think is a huge impact is profitability, right? Because at the end of the day, our goal is to create a more positive, productive, and profitable team. And our growth year over year in top line revenue was like 8.9%, which was like, again, I'm just pulling numbers, but maybe like 9 million over the year before. So again, all these things have a compound effect. And I think it took us losing in 23 to really realign, reassess, look ourselves in the mirror, make adjustments to be able to get the results that I just shared that allowed us to actually win.
And it's so important, and it just shows through this example how you need to benchmark, and you need to, at the starting point, look at where you were at so that you can compare. And I think also what I really wanted to highlight from what you said is that it isn't just an upward trajectory, that, you know, you had your ups and downs. And the important thing is that you're continuously listening to your people, and, you know, you are going to go wrong on the journey and you're going to need to backtrack and rethink, but that's okay. You can't be disheartened. You just need to keep pushing through. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Okay, so we'll wrap up very soon, but I wanted to, for those who are listening who say are in a similar position to you maybe a couple of years ago, where you've got maybe a really low Glassdoor rating, you know you need to work on your culture and better supporting your people and your business, but you're feeling quite overwhelmed about where you start, how do you embark on that journey and get your culture into a good shape. What advice would you give, having just been on that journey yourself?
It's a great question. I would say this, and you just mentioned it, it's, you know, taking a look at the benchmark. So for those companies that are kind of like, all right, we need to make a change, but we don't know where to start, or we do know where to start and it seems like too much. I would take a look, this is going to sound a little weird, but take a look at what awards you hope to win and use their criteria as a benchmark, and then kind of reverse engineer what needs to be done to get there. Because it's sometimes we think we know it all and we have a clear line of what's expected and what we're going to do. But if we want to be recognized as a culture pioneer or a best place to work, we need to understand what goes into that. And if you're not aligned to what those specifics are, then you could be putting your energy in the wrong place. So one of the things that we're more recently doing after learning that the hard way is taking a look at some of the ones that we strive for next and saying, what are we not doing that we need to do? And then we're kind of taking that, assessing where we're at in those areas, and then making adjustments to improve. And that's something that helps, again, just keep you focused and aligned. And then the other thing I would just say is, you know, don't focus on the end result. Focus on the process, because there's no finish line with culture. There's no, you know, you're constantly in a growth pattern. You're constantly making adjustments. And so it's important to just fall in love with the process, and then, you know, monitor, measure, and motivate along the way. And then, of course, you know, sprinkle some confetti and celebrate yourself too.
Brilliant advice. And yeah, go get yourself some confetti. And what you said earlier as well, the 1% every day, just focus on that. Otherwise it can get a bit overwhelming.
Sure can.
Great. Thank you so much, James. I just have one more question for you, and that is, what does it mean to be a winner of the Culture Pioneer Awards?
Well, I think, you know, for me personally, and I obviously exhibited this when we won, you know, for me, it was emotional because, you know, sometimes we work so hard on stuff that we don't really take a moment to celebrate it. And for someone that preaches celebrating yourself and your wins all the time, even I struggle with that sometimes. And so I think, you know, again, losing in 23 and wanting it even more and striving to fill the gaps where we needed to, and then winning in 24, it's kind of like, you know, for me, we're in Philly. So the Eagles just won the Super Bowl. And it's kind of like us. We were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. We should have, could have won, but we didn't. But this year we dominated. And that's kind of what I would correlate it to. It was so rewarding. And obviously it hurt to lose, but we had to lose to win. And so, you know, I think it just goes to show the collective effort and impact we've had as a company. And I'm just, you know, proud to be part of it and excited to continue to strive for more.
Thank you so much, James. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. I'm sure your words will inspire others who are, whether they're beginning their journey or they're muddling their way through, I'm sure it will inspire them to keep going and pressing forward. So at the
Hope so.
time of this recording, in March 2025, the entry period is open for our 2025 Culture Pioneer Awards. So if you're doing great things with your culture, or even if you're, just starting out, it's still a great opportunity to take part. And as James has shown through the Wurzak Hotel Group, we do give feedback, and you can always come back to improve the year after. But yeah, if you'd like to take a look at that, we'll share the website link and details in the show notes. So yeah, thank you so much, James, for speaking with me.
Appreciate it. See you later.
Thank you. Bye.